Trick or treat, everyone! What's on the Halloween menu today? Spooky donuts! This donut box has a whole assortment of chocolate frosted, vanilla frosted, and cream filled. It's so hard just to choose one. They are so puffy and amazingly sweet to have with some coffee or as a Halloween party treat, so be sure to keep on watching. Let's begin proofing our yeast. I have half a cup of milk that I'm warming in the microwave until it reaches 110 to 115 degrees and stirring in 1 tablespoon of brown sugar with 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast. Cover the top with plastic wrap and let this activate for 10 to 15 minutes. It will look foamy just like this. Heading over to the stand-up mixer, combine 3 cups of flour, a 1/4 cup of sugar, and half a teaspoon of salt with your paddle attachment. Next, add in the yeast mixture and 2 tablespoons of softened butter. Guys, if you haven't already, join the party and subscribe. This whole month it's Halloween on my channel and you don't want to miss out. Now I'm just pouring in 2 room temperature eggs with 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract and mixing until it starts to resemble a dough. That's your cue to switch to your hook attachment and knead together for about 7 minutes until smooth and elastic. It's perfectly normal to have a slight sticky consistency at this point. Transfer that into a bowl greased with vegetable oil and allow it to rise in a warm place for 2 hours. By then, it will be doubled in size and will be ready to make those puffy donuts. Place a sheet of parchment paper and a sprinkle of flour on your surface and divide up your dough, rolling each section to a 1/2 inch thickness. Parchment paper and flour are really coming through for us today to prevent any sticking fails. For the shape, these are 3-inch circle cutters. Cut as many as you can from the dough and roll out the excess scraps. Half of the batch, I am cutting out the centers with a 1-inch circle cutter to make the ring donuts. Now those look like donuts. Before frying, they need to rise one last time for 45 minutes. My important tip to you is not to let them rise for more than that because they will collapse and start acting a little crazy. To fry them, heat your oil and keep your thermometer in there to monitor the temperature. It should range between 330 to 335 degrees for no more than 3 minutes. Below that temperature will make them soggy and above will be overly crispy. We are aiming for an even golden color with that puffy texture. Try not to take a bite just yet. Allow them to cool off while we make the cream filling. I have 6 tablespoons of butter that I'm creaming with 1/2 cup of Crisco shortening until softened. Once that's ready, add in 3 1/2 cups of sifted powdered sugar. It sounds like a lot to sift, but it is very important, otherwise your cream will be lumpy. As you are mixing, pour in 2 tablespoons of heavy cream and 1 tablespoon of clear vanilla extract. The best ingredient, in my opinion, is 1/2 cup of marshmallow fluff. Mix that in just until smooth. You will really love how it tastes on its own and even more in the donuts. Here are my tips and tricks for filling them. I'm making a hole in the center with my thermometer and pushing as far as possible without poking through the other side and on an angle towards the left and right. Fill your pastry bag with the cream and squeeze out your filling using a Bismarck or round tip. It is so helpful for filling literally any dessert. The link for this will be available down in the description box. Now all they are missing is the glaze. This vanilla frosting has 3 1/2 cups of powdered sugar. Once again, we're sifting that. Sifting will be your favorite new hobby after today. Warm 3 tablespoons of butter and 9 tablespoons of heavy cream in the microwave and stir them in with the powdered sugar. Very simple, finishing off with 1.5 tablespoons of clear vanilla and 1.5 tablespoons of corn syrup. After mixing, check your consistency. The frosting should be opaque like mine here. If it's too thin, add an additional tablespoon of powdered sugar at a time, otherwise it will run right off your donut. Now we are glazing our mummy first and allowing it to dry, and the frosting stays right in place. Put 2 large spoonfuls of the frosting in a small bowl for decorating and divide up the remains into equal amounts to dye orange and green. For that pumpkin orange, I am using 4 drops of gel-based food coloring. Always start off small because you can add more color, but you can't take away. Repeat the same method for the monster lime green. Dip a filled donut in the orange for a pumpkin design and your ring donut for an orange frosted donut. Make sure to add your spooky sprinkles right away while the frosting is still wet. Next, take a ring donut and dip in the green for a monster. I applied 3 royal icing eyes on top and stuck a few candy corns in for his teeth. The last glaze is the chocolate frosting. This is 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder and 1¼ cups of powdered sugar, both sifted. Incorporate 1 tablespoon of butter melted with 4 tablespoons of heavy cream, as we did earlier with the vanilla frosting. Mix in ½ tablespoon of vanilla and 1 tablespoon of corn syrup. Just do another check and add more powdered sugar if the consistency is too loose. I'm dipping a filled donut for a spiderweb design and a classic frosted ring donut topped with sprinkles. Now I'm so excited to show you how I decorate them. For all the designs, make sure you thicken up your frosting by adding a tablespoon of powdered sugar in at a time until it's the consistency of almost a toothpaste and it doesn't fall off of your spoon. It took 4 tablespoons for me. With the right frosting, I'm piping zigzags with tip number 3 horizontally across the middle for the forehead area and wrapping diagonally towards the front on the left and right sides so it overlaps and crisscrosses just like a mummy. This design is so simple and cute, your lines don't even have to be perfect. I'm also applying some royal icing eyes, and now it's time to make him a friend. For the pumpkin head, I'm piping triangles with the chocolate frosting and filling them in for the eyes and nose. It's really helpful just to think of the shapes when you're freehanding and not the design as a whole. Then pipe a curly zigzag for his mouth. Jack is looking good. The spider web is a super fun one too. I'm piping a spiral with the lime green and making 4 lines up and down, an X, and horizontally. How cool does that look? I also added a plastic spider on top. Just make sure you take it off before having a bite, and comment down below which donut you would pick. Thank you so much for watching, and join me again next week for more Halloween treats.